In a world driven by the constant pursuit of success, recognition, and external achievements, we often find ourselves chasing after freedom, believing that happiness and peace lie just beyond our grasp. But what if I told you that true freedom doesn't come from external accomplishments or the validation of others? What if it's already inside you, waiting to be uncovered? Welcome to Buddhism Wisdom teachings. In today's exploration, we will delve deep into the profound Buddhist teachings that reveal how the ego, despite its relentless pursuit of freedom, is often blinded by external desires, while the soul remains already free, untouched by the noise of the world. Through the wisdom of silence and detachment, we will uncover the truth that freedom is not something we need to chase, but something we need to reconnect with within ourselves. Stay with us as we journey into the heart of what it means to be truly free. The illusion of control is one of the most profound sources of suffering, a core teaching in Buddhism that challenges a fundamental aspect of human nature: the need for certainty. In a world where we are conditioned to believe that control equals security, we often fail to realize that the more we try to hold on to life, the more it slips through our fingers. This principle is beautifully illustrated in the Buddhist metaphor of a river, which flows freely without needing permission. Yet we often find ourselves trying to grasp at it, trying to stop its flow or dictate its direction. In this struggle, we create resistance within ourselves, a tension that leads to emotional and mental suffering. The nature of control, a double-edged sword. Control on the surface might seem like a natural response to uncertainty. After all, we live in a world that places a high value on action, achievement, and certainty. Control promises predictability, and it provides the illusion of safety. But in reality, our desire for control is often misguided. It stems from the belief that we can force outcomes, that we can dictate how events in our lives unfold. But life, in its truest essence, is fluid, unpredictable, and ever-changing. It's like trying to hold a stream of water in your hand. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips away. This dynamic is at the heart of much of our anxiety, frustration, and dissatisfaction. Take, for example, the life of Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and SpaceX. Musk is often portrayed as a visionary who strives to control and shape the future with his groundbreaking technologies. However, the unpredictable nature of the industries he works in, the volatile stock market, the challenges of space travel, and the shifting dynamics of global business remind us that even the most powerful people in the world are at the mercy of forces beyond their control. Despite his immense achievements, Musk has had to navigate periods of intense uncertainty, market fluctuations, and setbacks that reminded him that, no matter how much control he attempts to wield, life's flow cannot be bent entirely to his will, suffering from control. Buddhist teachings suggest that suffering arises not from the events themselves, but from our reaction to them, particularly our resistance. This resistance is often born from our attachment to a specific outcome. We want things to go a certain way, and when they don't, we struggle, we fight, and we suffer. The more we try to control, the more we are forced to expend energy fighting against the flow of life. A famous example of this can be seen in the late Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. Known for his perfectionism and vision for the future, Jobs had an unwavering belief in the products he created. He tried to control every aspect of Apple's design and operations. However, his insistence on perfection often created a great deal of internal tension and, at times, alienated those around him. While his control over Apple's vision led to transformative products, it also led to intense personal struggles and a sometimes difficult leadership style. Jobs' story illustrates that, while control can lead to success, it often comes with an emotional cost, one that can undermine the joy of the process and the relationships that are part of the journey. Letting go of control, a path to freedom. Buddhism teaches that to find freedom, we must let go of our attachment to outcomes. This is not about abdicating responsibility or becoming passive. Rather, it is about trusting the natural flow of life and surrendering to what unfolds in front of us. When we stop trying to manipulate every aspect of our lives, we create space for spontaneity, creativity, and peace. By letting go of control, we allow ourselves to be in the moment, fully present and open to whatever life offers. In practice, this means releasing the constant pressure to micromanage our circumstances and instead responding with acceptance, curiosity, and trust. This doesn't mean that we stop caring about our goals or ambitions. Rather, we let go of the need to force them into being and trust that they will unfold in their own time. For example, Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States, often spoke about the importance of adaptability and patience in leadership. His presidency was marked by significant challenges and setbacks, from economic crises to foreign policy dilemmas. While Obama undoubtedly worked hard to push his agenda forward, he also recognized that not everything was within his control. This recognition of the limits of control allowed him to navigate his presidency with a sense of calm and resilience. Rather than trying to control every outcome, he focused on making thoughtful decisions and responding to situations as they arose, often emphasizing the importance of patience and long-term thinking. The personal transformation, embracing uncertainty. In my own life, I've experienced the profound shift that occurs when you embrace uncertainty and release the obsessive need for control. I recall a time in my career when I tried desperately to force a specific outcome, trying to secure a job, trying to get a particular promotion, and trying to control how others saw me. But the more I focused on forcing things, the more I felt stuck, overwhelmed, and disconnected. It wasn't until I began to release that attachment and embraced the uncertainty of life that things began to fall into place. By trusting the natural flow of events and focusing on being present rather than worrying about the outcome, I found peace. I stopped chasing after validation and instead focused on what I could control in the moment: my attitude, my actions, and my perspective. This simple yet powerful shift allowed me to experience a sense of serenity that I hadn't known before, embracing the flow of life. The key to overcoming suffering, as Buddhism teaches, lies in releasing the need to control. When we cling to outcomes, we are essentially trying to stop the natural flow of life. But the more we resist, the more we create unnecessary tension within ourselves. The practice of letting go invites us to trust that life will unfold as it's meant to, and in that trust we find true freedom. In fact, letting go of control doesn't make us passive or irresponsible. It allows us to be more attuned to the present moment, more open to opportunities, and more responsive to life's changes. We begin to realize that, while we can influence certain aspects of our lives, there is always an element of unpredictability. Life, in its essence, is like a river, fluid, ever-changing, and beautiful in its imperfection. Non-reactivity, a fundamental concept in Buddhism, is the practice of cultivating inner stillness in the face of external chaos. It is the ability to remain undisturbed by the emotional storms, the criticisms, and the inevitable challenges that life throws at us. In a world where immediate reactions are often seen as a sign of strength, Buddhism offers a refreshing perspective. True strength lies in the ability to pause, to observe, and to choose our response with awareness, rather than acting out of impulse. The concept of non-reactivity invites us to step back and gain clarity before we respond to the world around us. It encourages us to embrace a state of calmness, where we do not immediately react to every external trigger. Instead, we learn to witness life without becoming emotionally entangled in it. The Buddhist metaphor of the mirror is particularly useful in explaining this concept. A mirror reflects without judgment, without resistance, without getting involved in what it reflects. It simply observes and shows what is in front of it. This stillness, this ability to simply observe without getting emotionally swept away, is at the core of non-reactivity. The importance of non-reactivity in our lives. In our modern society, reaction is often seen as a reflexive, automatic response to external stimuli. When someone criticizes us, we immediately defend ourselves. When things don't go as planned, we panic. When faced with unexpected circumstances, we react with frustration or anger. But this pattern of constant reactivity often leads to further conflict and a deepening of our emotional turmoil. The more we react to external stimuli, the less control we have over our emotional well-being. Buddhism teaches us that non-reactivity is not about suppressing emotions or avoiding challenges. It's about choosing how we respond to life's unpredictability. The power of non-reactivity comes from the space it creates between stimulus and response. When we react automatically, we are enslaved by our emotions and external circumstances. But when we practice non-reactivity, we create room for reflection, wisdom, and clarity, enabling us to respond in a way that aligns with our true self. Take, for example, Barack Obama, the former president of the United States, whose calm demeanor and composed reactions in the face of intense pressure became defining characteristics of his leadership style. Throughout his presidency, Obama was often under intense scrutiny, facing constant criticism from various factions of the political spectrum. Despite this, he rarely reacted impulsively. Instead, he took his time to respond thoughtfully, using his calm presence to steer the country through crises. Obama's ability to remain unshaken by external chaos allowed him to navigate complex situations with clarity and wisdom, offering a model of non-reactivity in leadership. The practice of non-reactivity, a pause to reflect. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to practice non-reactivity is by taking a pause before responding. When faced with criticism, for instance, the natural inclination is to defend ourselves. This is particularly true in high-stress environments, such as at work or in personal relationships, where we might feel attacked or misunderstood. However, Buddhism teaches that instead of immediately reacting, we should take a deep breath, step back, and allow ourselves time to reflect. This pause provides the space for clarity to emerge, allowing us to choose a response that is measured and aligned with our values. Imagine being criticized at work. It's easy to feel defensive and respond with anger, but non-reactivity asks us to pause, breathe, and observe the situation. By practicing non-reactivity, we can view the criticism as an opportunity for self-reflection, rather than a threat. This pause enables us to step out of the emotional storm, observe the criticism objectively, and choose a response that is thoughtful and calm. Instead of reacting in the heat of the moment, we can respond with wisdom, gaining insight into ourselves and the situation. This idea is well illustrated by Oprah Winfrey, a media mogul who has faced criticism and personal attacks throughout her career. Oprah has often spoken about the importance of remaining composed and grounded when dealing with negativity. In interviews, she emphasized how she learned to take criticism in stride and respond with kindness, rather than reacting impulsively. Oprah's ability to pause and reflect on criticism before reacting allowed her to build a successful career while maintaining her integrity and peace of mind. Non-reactivity and emotional intelligence. Non-reactivity is deeply connected to emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions. Emotional intelligence allows us to remain calm in stressful situations, make thoughtful decisions, and build meaningful relationships. Non-reactivity is one of the cornerstones of emotional intelligence because it helps us control our impulses, reducing the likelihood of making rash decisions that could have long-lasting negative consequences. For example, Nelson Mandela, one of the most respected political leaders in the world, demonstrated extraordinary non-reactivity in his response to adversity. After being imprisoned for 27 years, Mandela emerged not with anger and bitterness, but with a deep commitment to forgiveness and reconciliation. He understood that reacting with resentment and hatred would only perpetuate the cycle of violence. Instead, he chose to remain calm and composed, using his energy to bring people together, regardless of the injustices he had endured. Mandela's example highlights the power of non-reactivity in leadership and how it can create lasting change. Non-reactivity and the ego. At the heart of non-reactivity lies the ability to transcend the ego. The ego thrives on validation and external approval. When we feel attacked or criticized, the ego reacts instinctively to protect itself. It urges us to defend, to prove, and to retaliate. However, when we practice non-reactivity, we begin to disidentify with the ego and recognize that we are not our reactions. We are not the emotions that arise in response to external events. Instead, we are the awareness that observes these emotions without getting caught up in them. This is beautifully illustrated by the Buddha's teachings on the self. The Buddha taught that the self is not a fixed entity, but a process, fluid and ever-changing. The ego, which we often perceive as our true identity, is simply a collection of thoughts, desires, and beliefs. By practicing non-reactivity, we can begin to let go of the ego's need to control and defend itself, allowing us to experience a deeper sense of inner peace and freedom.